Suits pending against the Browns, Deshaun Watson.
I don't know if this was good news or not.
I think this is not good news at all
so
for anyone. So according to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the lawyers handling the cases have agreed that no trials will be scheduled between August 1st, 2022 and March 1st of 2023.
So that means it's going to hang over the season?
It could go beyond that because the lawyer who represents the 22 women told the Plain Dealer he's trying to get a trial set for July, but if that's not feasible, then all 22 cases will be ready to go in March of 2023. So that means that will hang over all of this season. And then you have to consider that this is, again, not a class action suit. So unless someone gets everyone in a room and convinces all of these women who are filing these lawsuits and their lawyer to file as one class action suit, he is going to have to go to trial with each individual 22 times. Like each case is going to be tried separately. So this is not we're going like they're all together. It sounds like they're together, but that's not how this is going to play out. And he doesn't want to settle, so he's going to have to go to trial with each individual plaintiff.
So it's interesting. If I'm the National Football League, how do I suspend him if nothing? I don't know what I do with Deshaun Watson. At least if there was closure on it, I could then suspend him for 6 to 8 games. What do you do if you're the league now? Well,
clearly the criminal cases were not moving forward was a big indication that they were clear as far as teams were concerned, because everyone began moving forward with trying to get him once that didn't move forward. But you don't have to have a criminal charge in order for the league to suspend you.
That's right.
So that has nothing to do with it. And he's not on the commissioner's exempt list. So he's available. He was available to play all year last year. He's available to play now. If they don't suspend him, because to your point, there is no closure on the situation, he could play all year this year, potentially all year after that. And then when these cases are settled, because there are 22 of them, this could go on for several more years.
Oh boy, hovering over a franchise. It just is a lot of drama. It's a lot of, I don't know what you do if you're the league. I mean, Cleveland will screw it up. They always do. But,
right.
I mean, from the league standpoint, Roger Goodell, what do I do? How do I?
Well, they've said from the beginning that they're not going to interfere with any criminal investigation, which the criminal investigation is now over.
It's over.
And you don't need a criminal charge in order to suspend. The civil cases aren't going to be settled for, like I said, maybe another 2 years.
Could I say, because it was such a negative story for the league, and just say we're going to suspend you because of.
I think the league at this point, since they haven't suspended him already, I don't know how you don't just wait, because
I think
what
you're
you
right.
could walk into is a Ray Rice type of situation where you do suspend him and it turns out to be wildly lenient.
Yeah,
depending on how this all plays out.
I don't know what you do with this.
Well, it could be a while before we find out. So this conversation might go on for quite some time. So the USFL regular season starts on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Very exciting. They had a preseason game on Friday in which they debuted the use of chips in the footballs.
Now, this could be copied by the NFL
to help determine first downs. So they claim this is more accurate. They'll use the yellow first down marker on TV for fans, but they aren't using the 10-yard chain markers that are currently used in the NFL. Now, the NFL has chips in the footballs already, but they use that technology for their next-gen stats, for tracking data. It's not for officiating. So this could translate to the NFL depending on how this works. But again, the shape of the football makes it kind of difficult to determine, like, where is the chip in the football? Is that on the ends?
I would think it's on the ends.
Or is it in the middle?
Ends.
Because obviously, like, the shape of the football changes things. Like in tennis, there's very accurate ability for replay because of the shape of the ball.
So this is something my friends and I, you ever see a great business and you think to yourself, God, for a great business, I can't believe they do blank that way. Our big joke about the NFL is, for a zillion-dollar business, they determine first downs on old guys who run in carrying chains from the sidelines, and you're like, those guys
like
couldn't.
It's never felt accurate to me at any point.
It's kind of like we're determining Super Bowls on the old guys on this. By the way,
we determine who gets the ball off of a coin flip. I mean, there are some a bit archaic things that are in place still in games, and this is, we had ping pong balls for the NBA draft lottery. Like, there are some things that are like, I feel like we could find a more efficient, like, technology to figure this out. But it's good that they're able to try this in the USFL.
Well, the NFL to its credit, has stolen or borrowed a lot of things from a lot of leagues.
Sure.
People made fun of the XFL, right? When they had cameras in the huddles and sweeping cameras. NFL took that stuff. Like, there's going to be stuff in the USFL that you look at and go, oh, that's clever. Because when you don't have a history like the NFL, you can take big chances. I used to say this all the time to my friends. USC or Penn State or Alabama, if they make a uniform change, their boosters freak out. Michigan. What if Michigan said, hey, we're going to have a new helmet? Oh, my God, the donors would go crazy. Oregon had no history, and Phil Knight said, we're going to have 240 uniforms. They had no, great history. So when you don't, it gives you great freedom to take big swings and big risks.
And actually, people really liked the different uniforms.
Oh, it was literally became like Oregon's hallmark. It was huge for recruiting. They had the whites, the greens, the hazmat spill. But when you have a great history, you could not go to Michigan football and say we're changing the uniforms, or Kentucky basketball.
Right.
Or Yankee baseball, the pinstripes. The USFL?
No, I'm interested to see how truly accurate it ends up being and how it works. But it seems like I think we've been talking about this for a while, that shouldn't we have this sort of technology? I feel like it could be in place already. But this is a good place to try it. What if the chip gets knocked out of place? Then what do you do? This is a perfect place to try it. So the USFL debuts Saturday with the New Jersey Generals taking on the Birmingham Stallions. Primetime on Fox and NBC. The Stallions are currently favored by 3.5, according to Fox Bet.
Good stuff. Joy Taylor with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
As to the fans and the media in that area, and he was talking about two different things. One, Jordan Love, the kid they drafted in the first round a couple of years ago. We've seen play a couple of times. Not very promising. His quote was, we haven't seen enough of him. Preseason will be very important. They've seen enough of him. They know at this point he's not ready to play. If he was, they would have moved off Aaron Rodgers. We all know that, right? Alex Smith, much better than people have ever given him credit for. They moved off in Kansas City because they knew Patrick Mahomes was great. If the quarterback is great, that's why Jimmy Garoppolo is still around for the Niners, because they have some misgivings about Trey Lance. It doesn't look good. He has struggled. If you draft a quarterback in the first round and move up to draft him, you want to play him as soon as you can, because you're not paying him anything, and it allows you to do with, what the Rams did with Jared Goff or the Seahawks did with the young Russell Wilson. You can load your roster up for 2 or 3 years. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati right now. You're not paying him anything. Josh Allen's first couple years in Buffalo. You can go add pieces. It's kind of the secret sauce when you have a young quarterback. Surround Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. Didn't pay him anything. $18 million, not much of a cap hit. You can load him up. Go get Jadeveon Clowney's. Go get Kareem Hunt as a backup quarterback. Go get OBJ. Go get Jarvis Landry. We all know the game, right? So if he could play, they would have moved off Aaron Rodgers and not been publicly humiliated by him and given him $50 million a year. But the other quote that Mark Murphy had, which is a real thing. So we theorized a couple weeks ago. I said, Green Bay's got the weakest wide receiving core in the NFL right now. There is no second place. Maybe Houston, maybe the Patriots. It's bad. Increasingly, outside of quarterback, wide receivers matter more than any other position because of the rule changes and the cultural changes in football. The star athletes in high school now, they want to be quarterbacks, they want to be wide receivers. And you got to be good at both. Cincinnati had a lot of flaws. Great young quarterback, great wide receivers. You start looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a couple years ago when they won. Great quarterback, great wide receivers. They didn't have a great secondary. They didn't have a great left side of the offensive line necessarily. You got to be great at those places. Green Bay is awful right now at wide receiver, and yet is not going after any of the free agent wide receivers, even the cheap ones. Even Devontae Parker. They're not even in the running. Why? Because Mark Murphy said over the weekend, and this is something I believe, and now it's been verified. He said, we don't look at Aaron Rodgers as having a 3-year contract. It's a series of 1-year contracts. My theory's right. So, number one, Green Bay knows Aaron doesn't like criticism at all. Number two, Green Bay was humiliated and ticked off at constantly being publicly berated and manipulated by Aaron Rodgers the last year. They didn't like that at all. No front office does. And number three is they're not pursuing wide receiver talent in free agency. Why? Because there's no owner for the Packers. So the guys in the front office, Mark Murphy, is safe. He's not going to get fired. Matt LaFleur's not going to get fired if the season goes sideways. What they don't want to be is in the Aaron Rodgers business for 3 more years. They're over it. And so what they do is they sign him so they can be competent. They don't go after veteran receivers. They're going to get them only in the draft. Why? Because Aaron doesn't deal well. He has trust issues. He doesn't deal well with young receivers. And the criticism of Green Bay has been for years, they draft receivers, but never in the first round. And they have 2 first-round picks. They may go after 2 receivers, and they'll be able to say, we drafted wide receivers in the first round. So watch Green Bay. They've got 2 firsts and 2 seconds. They'll take at least 2 receivers, and they'll cover their arse. Hey, we went out and got him. The year before, we got Amari Rodgers. We got young receivers. A.J. Dillon was a second-round run. We got him a lot of skill, people. This was not on us. So why are they not going after veterans? Because eventually they don't want to be, for 3 more years, in this nonstop fire hose of drama with Aaron Rodgers. They see it as a 1-year contract. They'll try to get out of it. If they can't, it'll be a 2-year contract. They will not have a relationship in 3 years. And the difference between this and Russell Wilson was Russell Wilson wanted out of Seattle 3 years ago, but they made some changes for him, and he kept it out of the papers.